My Goodreads review for this was low conflict queens. This is the girl for you. Just so low conflict.
It's like they're dire, but the book isn't like,
Yes.
and then you know.
That's a really good way to put that.
Really, was it? Because I felt like I looked crazy. Hello and welcome to Read the Last Page,
A Yap Session
book club
with your two favorite long distance best friends.
The book we read this month is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune.
And since we finally read the last page, let's talk about it. Hi, B. How are you?
I'm mostly good. I was just telling you.
Yeah.
I was just telling you. I literally have had a headache for over a week because there's like a crack deep in my neck that I can't crack without like
killing yourself,
like decapitating myself.
Right.
And it's literally driving me crazy. I've like tried massaging and I roll it around, I stretch it out, I sleep different ways, I do the massage I've tried everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just annoying because it's like it's not like intense all the time, but like for over a week it's like every day I've had at least part of the day where I like have a headache. So
I can't imagine.
Yeah. It's annoying,
That
but
sucks.
like it's fine. Maybe it's also a little bit related to the weather. I don't know. Like our weather here has been kind of up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday it was like almost 80 degrees, and then a few hours later it was like literally 40. It was insane.
Oh my gosh. Wait, that's crazy.
It was crazy. Which it might have been more like feels like 40.
Sure.
You know, where it's like 50 but it feels like 40 because of the wind.
Yeah.
But still, it was like 76 degrees to like 46 degrees.
Oh my god. Have you guys been having really bad wind in New York?
Well, yesterday was really windy, but I wouldn't say overall it's been really bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I don't know, it was kind of a lot yesterday. But
Yeah.
now it's like back to cold vibes, so.
We've been having the worst wind.
Really?
In Missouri. Yeah. And it's like, if you know anything about me, you know that my least favorite weather is wind because it makes me so, for some reason it like triggers something in me.
Yeah.
Like it makes me so irrationally angry.
Oh.
Because I just hate the idea of like my clothes blowing, my hair in my face. Like I can't just do anything peaceful. And so, fun fact, a thing I've been doing a lot recently is reading outside because I feel like it'd be more productive if I'm in a specific place and I have a task.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to read this book like at my local parks or wherever, but the wind is so annoying that I can only last for maybe 30 minutes and then I'm like, I have to pack it up and go. I finished this book in my car today because I was so annoyed.
Really? Yeah, because yesterday it was crazy. Today it's windy, but I wouldn't say it's like crazy windy.
Yeah.
But I had to read mine. I finished mine at work.
Mm-hmm.
And like the door that I work at, I work with my coworker who actually just followed our channel. So if you're listening, I'm not going to say his name on there because I don't know if he'd want that, but
okay.
He's my favorite coworker. But he's like reminds me a lot of like my dad and stuff. Anyways, he's super chill, and like I told him, I was like, oh, I have to finish my book like for my podcast, which he was totally fine with. But like one of our like security guards was over there and he had his AirPods in, and he was like just like watching, I don't know, probably TikTok on his phone or whatever, or music or something. And you know me, I'm super sensitive to sound, and like I could hear his music or whatever, like you can just hear the tss, 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 through the AirPods, and I just like couldn't focus on reading.
Really?
Yeah, it was just it just like bothers me. So in the women's restroom there's like the little room where there's like the bench and the mirrors and stuff.
Sure.
So I went in there to read, but the window was open for some reason. It was so cold.
Oh my god.
So I just closed it. I was like, I don't really know if I have the authority to do this, but like I'm freezing and I need to read my book. And if anyone else from my job is listening, like I promise I'm a really good worker. Today's show was super chill. Like it was fine for me to sit in there for 10 minutes. It was fine.
Right.
But last night I started a 75 soft for myself.
Okay.
And so I have like daily things that I'm doing and then like weekly things that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my weekly things is to journal at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, last night was Saturday night and I hadn't journaled yet. So I was like, okay, I gotta do this. So I journaled and then I was like, oh, I need to finish my book. So I started trying to read,
Mm-hmm.
but I got tired and I like went to bed. And a lot of times I sleep with like my laptop playing a TV show, especially if there's like noise happening outside of my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It like helps drown it out and stuff. And I didn't turn it on because I was like, oh, I'm tired enough. Like, I'm just going to go right to sleep. And it's incredible when I woke up. I could feel the difference in the quality of rest that I got when I spent my evening journaling and reading versus like watching TV and like being on my phone.
Don't you hate to hear that?
It's like, wait, everything they said is true.
I hate that.
Yeah. No. So like I had to wake up. Well, I didn't have to wake up super early.
Mm-hmm.
But I was only gonna get like just 8 hours of sleep basically, and so it's like I'm definitely would love to sleep more, but it's like when I woke up, I just felt like, I got deep, intentional rest.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so might have to do that more, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. You told me before we started that you have something for show and tell. Is that something that you want to show now?
So my roommate Allison, she's very crafty and she makes stuff and she sews stuff and she crochets and she gave me this scarf.
You're kidding.
Yeah,
that's so pretty.
She was just like, yeah, like I guess she just didn't want it. She's probably already made one for herself. She's like, do you want this? And I was like, yes. It's like literally one of my absolute favorite colors of blue. Like I love this color so much and it's soft.
It looks so soft.
Yeah, anyways, I just wanted to show it off. She said, you know how I love to make a rectangle? She's just like made so many like random rectangles that it's like
she cracks me up, by the way.
Yeah,
like,
she's very funny.
You say that she says, I'm just like, literally, it's so true.
Yeah. She's funny. So anyways, I just want to show it off. Shouts out to her. So yeah,
that looks so cozy.
I know.
I love a good scarf.
And like my other scarf that I have is actually handmade by someone that I was in a show with when we did like a Secret Santa, and I love it so much. And it's rainbow, and like I love it so much. But it's like infinity scarf, like it's one loop, and this one isn't. So now like I can have an option of like if I want one that's like just looped around my neck or if I want one that's hanging. So yeah,
I love that.
Fun. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you reminded me of that because I totally forgot.
I was just curious. I was like, what could she be showing?
Okay, shall we start talking about this book?
Yes. Can you give a... I was gonna write one up and then I was like, didn't do that. Okay, wait. But I can at least like set you up and then I'll give you the reins. So,
okay, sure.
If you guys didn't know, which I'd be surprised because you clicked on this intentionally, I'm assuming, we're going to be reviewing House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I've had this book on my shelf since it came out in like 2020, maybe 2019. And like people have been hyping it up to me for years and years and years. And I feel like I almost missed the boat on it because I was like, because like it was so big the year it came out. And then it kind of like, I feel like the hype passed and I was like, am I ever going to pick this book up? But then you got the book from one of your friends, correct?
Yeah.
And so you were actually the one who were like, can we read this for like our next month book club? And I was like, yes, finally I have to get this off my shelf. Because it's sitting there collecting dust. So.
Yes, for my friend that has read every book under the sun. She let me borrow this.
Love that. You have the hardcover. Wait, that's so cute.
Yeah. Well,
it looks nice.
It's hers.
Right, sure. But I'm so happy now that we've read it. I'm going to hand it over to you. Do you want to maybe give a good summary?
So this book, I would say, would you say this is adult fiction?
Yeah, I would say it's like adult fantasy.
Right, because the main character is like a grown man.
Yeah.
So it's about a man named Linus Baker who works for and oh my gosh, I'm not even going to remember. Department of Children. Wait,
Department in charge of magical youth.
Okay, there we go. So he works there, and his job is to go sort of investigate um, orphanages that have magical children
Mm-hmm.
and kind of deem and figure out, like, are they operating the way they should be, or do they need to be closed because they're not under regulation.
Yeah.
This is his whole life. He's passionate about following his rules and regulations. um he lives alone, he has a cat, he lives
Mm-hmm.
in a dreary town. His life doesn't really change day to day. He's very thorough in what he does. And
Mm.
so this catches the eye of the upper management at his job, and he's sent on a kind of top secret investigation. It's like classified, level 4 clearance, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is sent to sort of this, it's not necessarily remote island. It's an island, so all islands are remote to some degree. But there's like a village on the mainland nearby. But he goes to an island where there's a man, Arthur Parnassus,
Mm-hmm.
who is in charge of the orphanage of the island with a myriad of different magical children. They're all different. I think there's about like 5, 6 of them.
Yeah.
I could count them if I took the time. But one of the main concerns he has is that one of the kids is like basically the son of the devil.
Yeah.
And like his name is Lucy, short for Lucifer, and he's like a 6-year-old boy. And so he feels that this is the main reason that this investigation is kind of top secret, because this is like unlike any other magical kid he's ever met. It obviously is scary, because it's like, oh my gosh, he could bring about the end of the world, basically. So this is what he goes into this thinking is like the main concern. And along the way, he starts to realize, or maybe think, maybe there's more to this, like of why upper management sent him there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really about him. He's going there for 3 weeks, and so it's about him being put in this situation he's never been put in. He's supposed to give his very thorough reports because that's what he's known for. And as you can probably guess, people change people. And so as they go along, some of the different characters' feelings change about how they think about things. And it's kind of just about his journey, like, just being exposed to new types of people, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And where it goes from there. I won't say what happens, but that's
Right.
kind of the basic premise. So it is it is following an adult, but then there's all the kids on the island, and it's fiction in the sense, obviously, that there's magical kids, but it's like magical realism or whatever, where I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong. I don't know genre types. I just pick up books and read them. I don't like look at classifications.
Sure.
It's set in the real world, basically.
Yeah.
Unlike I always go back to
Like a
like Six
fake-
of Crows,
yeah.
where it's like a whole different place.
Yeah.
It's just set in the regular world, but there's just this aspect of there are magical children that are somewhat integrated into society. Not fully, because a lot of them are at these orphanages, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a part of their life. It's
Yeah.
not like a secret to the world that they exist. However, it is kind of a secret that this child Lucy exists. Like, not everybody really knows about that. But yeah, that's kind of the basic premise.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what this book kind of reminded me of? As far as just like finding another book that I've read in the past. I felt like it was so similar to the concept of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Yeah, that's a really good text-to-text connection.
Thank you. No, I know.
That's so true. I can't believe I hadn't thought
Yeah.
of that. Yeah, no.
I was
for
going to
real.
ask you if you felt like that too, because just from the very beginning, I was just like, it's so like there's somebody who is in charge of all these children living in this very secretive house. We don't really know so much about it, but all the kids are so eccentric and have all these quirks about them. Miss Peregrine's is probably a little bit more like less cozy, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say more heavily into the magicalness of things.
Yes, like everything about that book, other than the main character, I would say, is like so fantastical. And then more so, I would say what's so fantastical about House in the Cerulean Sea is just the children. You know, everything else can just be like normal.
Yeah,
world.
it's very normal. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, I'm really happy we read this, especially like during like the spring. When spring's starting, it just feels like a book that is very cozy. From the start, you're just so endeared to every single character, and just like the writing in general is very endearing. The quote on the front, which is what made me buy this book, by the way, in the first place, for me, I don't know if it's on yours, but it's a blurb by V.E. Schwab, and it says, "I loved it. It's like being wrapped up in a big gay blanket. Simply perfect." And like that's so true. It just feels like a blanket, like a blanket. Like it's so cozy.
Mine says this book is very close to perfect.
Oh, slay. Wait, who said that though?
Shannon McGuire. I don't know if I said that first name right.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah. It says New York Times bestselling author of Every Heart a Doorway. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that book.
Speaking of the writing being endearing, a lot of the writing style and choices reminded me a lot of the series of Unfortunate Events.
Interesting. I'm watching that show right now.
Really?
Yeah, but I haven't read the book, and I guess I watched the movie when I was younger, but I don't really remember it.
I tried to watch the show and I absolutely despised it, and then everybody else that was like huge, because I'm a huge fan of the books, also a big fan of the movies. Everybody else that I've seen online that loved the books is like, oh my gosh, this show is like the best adaptation ever. And meanwhile, I thought, oh my gosh, they didn't adapt this correctly. So I don't really know like what.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah. That's
I'm
like a different story. I want to give it another chance. But
yeah. I'm liking it, but I'm obviously removed from the original text, so I don't know. I think it's like it's a cute show, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's interesting. Well, how did it remind you of the book series?
Like the way that Linus is very kind of like to the point. Like I wouldn't say dry, but it's just like, and here's what he's doing, and then he does this, and then he says this. Like I feel like that reminded me a lot of how the series of Unfortunate Events was written. There was something that I wrote specifically. Let me see if I can find it. Well, okay, I will save that until when we are in the non-spoiler the spoiler part. Yeah. But I don't know. On page 55, I wrote, "Not sure what, but something about this feels very a series of unfortunate events to me." I think it's like also just because Linus Baker is like a lonely man doing his job. Yeah. And Lemony Snicket is like a lonely man doing his job.
Sure.
And so like that kind of reminded me of it.
Sure.
I don't know, it just had like it had a similar aesthetic of like kind of I guess like the tone of a lot of the scenes, and just like the way that it was like, oh, he lives in a town where it always rains and he always forgets his umbrella, kind of like that's I mean that's realistic, but it's kind of like not realistic. Do you know what I mean? Like obviously that can actually happen, but it's a little bit sensationalized. I feel like that's how a lot of a series of unfortunate events is. Like it's like these things, like they could happen, but it's like would it really happen? I feel like that's part of what also makes it similar. It's hard to put my finger on, but
no, I like that. And I'm gonna say one more. This is also what it reminded me. But I was telling this to my roommate Catherine, because I was trying to pitch the book to her, and I was like, if you're a fan of like The Sound of Music, And if
Oh.
you're a fan of the TV show Severance, specifically, there's a character in Severance called Irving. He reminded me so much of Linus. It's crazy.
No
and then
spoilers because I want to watch that.
no. Yeah. No worries. But you'll just see, like, from the first episode, you'll be like, yeah, he gives Linus vibes.
Yeah.
But if you took those together and made it into like a Pixar film, I think this
Oh.
is what this would be.
Interesting.
And I was like, this is like the most insane concoction, but you guys have to let me cook because I fear this is exactly what I was getting here.
Yeah.
I think this would be a fantastic Pixar film if Pixar
Yeah.
had the guts to do it.
Yeah.
I think it would rock. Just because it's just like I could just like see like all the kids as like that's how I was picturing them as
Yeah.
Pixar characters, like specifically
really?
like Chauncey, you know?
Yeah.
Like him. I'm like, I
Right.
can't imagine you just operating in the like real world.
Yeah. No,
Like
that's
I feel like
true.
you're just so characterized to me.
Highly recommend.
Yes.
If you're listening to get a vibe and see if you want to read it, I highly recommend it. I do really tend to like fantasy. So if you already like fantastical elements, like this is a really fun one. If you
Mhm.
aren't so into fantasy, it's not a full-blown fantasy
Yes.
book. It's very grounded in the real world, and it's very much about how people that are different do or do not fit into a real society. So it's like that's a
Yeah.
very realistic concept that's very timely. It's very in the now. It's very important.
Yes.
So it's like it's not just like, oh, these random magical kids. There's a real message that's really applicable to our actual lives, and
Yeah.
it's happening in their actual lives in
Yeah.
the normal world.
Yeah,
So,
and I was going to
highly
save some of
recommend.
this for the spoiler section, but that is a really good point to say. Like, I think we've been in a time, at least, I mean, the whole world has, but like, I'm thinking about America specifically, where the
Uh-huh.
past year has been kind of chaotic and stressful for a lot of people. And I think this is a book that if you're needing optimism in your life, if you're needing like something that feels like a nice break, or just like, I think this book is a lot about finding the cracks, you know, in things, because like to quote Leonard Cohen, that's how the light gets in. I feel like that's how this entire book is. Like it's like all about finding little things that are going to keep you going. And so
Yeah.
I think that if you're kind of either in just a rut, if you're not having a very good time lately, if you're kind of scared about certain things you're seeing on the TV or in your news cycle, I think this can be a little break from that, and
Yeah.
also kind of just give you back some hope if you're looking for that.
Yeah, and I feel like along the lines of like you were talking about it being like cozy and stuff, like it's been a while since I've read a book where it's like I'm not actually so concerned about the plot moving forward. The plot moved forward plenty fine, but I was just like, oh, I can't wait to read this book and see what my characters are up to.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It was very, I know, I thought it was going to be so much more, again, I'm going to get into this more in the spoiler section. I thought it was going to be so much more plot focused, but it was just very much a character driven story.
Yeah.
Which I just appreciated. It was all about just like growth. And
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing. So yeah, loved. Yeah. And also I know this guy has he's known for like kind of this type of book. Like he's done more books, I think, in this similar style. And so now I'm like, I think I need to read all
Yeah,
the
like
other
I
books
would
of his.
definitely read another one.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about this?
No, yeah, let's just start talking everything.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're switching, so if you haven't read the book and you don't want to hear any spoilers, see you.
Yeah.
We love you. Bye. Okay.
Okay. Ooh, jinx. Well, can I start because I have something about
Yes.
the very
I
beginning?
was hoping you were going to start.
Oh, okay. So I wrote like at the end of chapter 3,
Mm-hmm.
I said, in 3 chapters and less than 50 pages, the author has swiftly introduced our main character and set up a really interesting premise. I
Yeah.
thought the writing in this book was so good because it's like we we didn't waste any time
No.
learning who our character was, what his circumstance was. Not we weren't really we didn't really have his goal spelled out yet, but you could kind of get a feel for like, oh, maybe his life would be better if it went this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, and then we've learned like what his new mission is, like from Daikomi, and it's just like I was really impressed. Like in 3 chapters, less than 50 pages, like here we go on an adventure. Let's see where Linus Baker goes.
I loved
so
that
good.
so much. I felt like it was so confident in itself. Like
Yeah.
the book starts, and by the first paragraph, it cements itself to its readers as like, this is what the tone is. This is like, this is what the writing's gonna feel like. Like you're gonna feel like I was immediately attached to Linus as a character.
Yeah.
Like just like his. There was like this whole part in, I think it was the first chapter, but like he's like recounting his life. He's like, I've never been in love before. I like have like my only friend is my cat, and like he's not happy in his life. Like there's that scene where he like misses his bus because he keeps bumping into desks getting out of his office, and he like fixes every desk as he goes. And like that to me just like told me so much about his character. And not only that, but like I was like gonna cry because I was like, I love him. I love him. And he's like, now like, welcome, I'm adopting you. Like genuinely I loved. So I don't know, I think you're so right. This book had no issues grabbing my attention, and not only that, but just like endearing me to it so quickly.
Yes.
And that's so rare. I feel like it's really hard to feel endeared with a book as quickly as I was with this one.
Yeah, and I think endearing is such a good word for the writing, because it's like it wasn't overly loquacious. It wasn't like it wasn't so flowery, and like it wasn't like trying to be endearing. It just was.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
I love
don't know,
that.
like you know, I'm like, I don't even like, I know that it's endearing, but I can't put my finger on why, and I think that makes it so good, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah, I also, sorry, I'm just also going down my list, so I don't know if this is.
I'm just looking too.
I love that this book is one, and this is kind of like jumping ahead, but also not. I just think it's really nice that it's a book that explores, I would say, later life, coming of age, and later life romance. I think it's so beautiful. And I think too, specifically also because this is a gay romance, I think one thing that a lot of people who are queer feel like they missed out on a lot of life that a lot of people got to live, because it takes a lot of people longer to come out of the closet. Because of that, it's like they don't get their I'm sorry, really generalizing, but a lot of people I know don't get like the high school sweetheart part of their life.
I was gonna say like the teenage, like
and I think that can be really scary for a lot of people. And then also I can see so clearly how Linus fell into this kind of life where he just reached, I don't even know how old he's supposed to be. Is he in his 40s, 50s?
I thought he was close to 40.
Because Arthur's in his 40s, so I'm assuming Linus is also around there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see how he's reached that age, and he just feels like he's missed out on so much of life because he got into that pattern so early. And I think it's just such a nice message to tell people that, hey, it's never too late to get that part. Like, I know, even though you think that everyone has done it and gotten it over with and like had all of these life experiences before you, and it's too late now, like it's never too late for that to happen to you. It's so comforting, such a nice message, done so beautifully in this. I really liked it.
It was very sweet. Another like bit about the writing that I really liked is I said from page 108 to 110, I said this scene was very well done. And if I remember correctly, that's like kind of his first time eating dinner with like the whole family. And it was just like the kids are like, well, where did you come from? Well, did you do this? And then someone else is like, can I show you my garden? And then that prompts someone else to say something, and they're like, these questions and things are being bounced around the table. Linus is like feeling uncomfortable. He's like, oh, blah blah. It was just so well done to me, like the flow of chaos
Yes.
was written so well and so believably. And also, like, I feel like the essence of each child was very apparent and very well done. I think sometimes like it can be hard to write kids just because it's like we're no longer kids, right? Authors are no longer kids, and it's like, how do they really speak and how do they really react? And like, I have 10, I think, nieces. No, I have 11 nieces and nephews.
So crazy every time I hear that. Woo.
So it's like, I know a lot about how kids, I talk to kids. I don't get to see them all the time, but I see them and I talk to them on the phone, and it's like, I feel like he did such a good, like the author did such a good job of writing kids how they actually are without being gimmicky and without being like over the top or like so in your face, like, and this is a little kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was gonna say, because, and sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say, so often I feel like I can't stand books that include children characters because they're so, and this is gonna sound really crazy and mean, but like annoying to me. And I think it is because the authors just don't really understand, a lot of authors don't really understand how to write realistic kid characters and how to make them as complex but still lovable as they actually are in real life, you know? And so I always feel like I'm like, I don't love the child in this book, and that makes me feel bad. I feel like a monster. But then it's like when you read really well written child characters, you're just like, okay, it's not a me thing. Like, like, it's just very refreshing to see someone understand how to write a child, you know?
No, I completely agree.
I also, during that scene, I was cracking up at every single one of Lucy's comments. Like, he was like, do you want a glass of water? Do you want me to like bring the flames of hell up to the dinner table? It just felt fun. And like, I wanted to know the characters more and the family more. Yes, again, so endearing. So
it's like, no, actually what you said is so true, because it's so easy sometimes as adults to feel annoyed sometimes at kids when they ask a million questions or whatever. And so it's like, this scene could have been so easily incorrectly read as like, oh my gosh, these kids are annoying. But it's like, no, they're endearing, they're excited, someone new is here, oh my gosh, do you want to do this? And it's like, that's I just love it.
It's also such a good way to introduce the kids to us, because beforehand, you know, it's just, this whole island is such a mystery to both us and Linus. And you know, he reads one file and we're like, okay, the son of the Antichrist, cool, we'll see what that's about. And then everyone on the island, not everyone, but you know, like, oh, why am I forgetting her name? Who's the sprite? Zoe, yes, oh my gosh. And Zoe's kind of being really territorial, and it's kind of like building up these expectations that you're like, what are we walking into? Yeah. And then immediately the expectations are kind of crashed down, because you're like, these are just these little children who are just so like so need to be protected. Like, I wanted to put them all in little bubbles and be like, don't look outside. Yeah. You're fine. But it's just such a great way, I think, to immediately kind of I guess turn left for the viewer, you know, or the reader. Like, you think it's going to be one thing and then it turns out being something so opposite.
Right. I also think, like, speaking about the kids, I thought that this was really well done in the sense of like, they're magical kids and there's this department in charge of the magical youth, and like, so there is a magic system in this world, but we didn't ever have to learn a bunch of unnecessary information, and so we didn't have to like, we also didn't have to care about the hows and whys about a lot of stuff, because it just like wasn't
necessary.
just wasn't important and it wasn't relevant. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, how does it work for him to be the son of, like, be the Antichrist?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? You know,
Yeah,
but it's like,
also
it
like, who
didn't matter.
cares? Yeah.
And it's
you know
like,
what?
when they get the Yeti kid at the end, it's like, so how is there like a Yeti child, right? Like, where did he come from?
Yeah.
What is, like, huh? But it's like, but it doesn't matter, because it's like, the point is just, it's just like, okay, magical people and magical kids exist in this world. Okay, go.
Mhm.
And
I
then, like, that's all
know.
that mattered.
I love that it was just it felt like there's a huge picture that exists, but we're zooming in on like one tiny part of this
Yeah.
picture. You know what I mean? And it also makes me really intrigued to see if this author's ever going to, like, I don't know a whole lot about his other books, but I'm like, does he explore more of this specific world?
Yeah.
I feel like he left so much open where like he could explore more of this particular story, or maybe his other books are about different facets of this world, and you know, getting more into that we couldn't touch on in this. So I think it's really smart. I feel like there's just so much you can do with this.
Can I talk about a few other things that reminded me of a series of unfortunate events?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just because, you know, I love text to text.
Mm-hmm.
Linus kind of reminded me, and this is not going to be so interesting for you because you don't know all these people, but he kind of reminded me of Mr. Poe. Just like Mr. Poe in the books is very like, he's like kind of in charge of the kids' affairs, like the Baudelaire's affairs, getting them from one house to the next. And he's just kind of like, well, these are the rules, you know?
Yeah.
So like in the beginning of the book, really, Linus reminded me of him. Arthur Parnassus reminds me of Uncle Monty, who is their uncle that the Baudelaires live with, who he's in the book called The Reptile Room, and it's like he has all these like snakes and every reptile you can ever imagine. And his name is actually Montgomery. But he's very like a little bit quirky and a little bit like out there, but he's also very like, he's very warm and loving and kind, and it's like he's who you wanted the Baudelaires to end up with, but then like things happen. Like, I don't know, there's something like stoic about Arthur while also being eccentric, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really
and
good
I
way
feel
to say
like
that.
So that also reminded me. And then the funny thing that happened is at the end, when they are like confronting the village people, and they're like, that kid like threw Marty or whoever like up against the wall, like, look, he got injured. And then Linus is like, do you really think like the little kid would do that? And they're like, look at his neck brace, like he wouldn't be wearing a neck brace if he wasn't injured. That is so a series of unfortunate events where it's like the adults are like, well, but I can see this thing plainly with my eyes, so it must mean this. And it's like, the kids are always seeing the truth behind it, but just the way that it's like someone in the crowd was like, but he's wearing a neck brace. Like, that was like, like,
that I can see that.
So a series of unfortunate events. And I say this all like endearingly, like I love that it reminded me of that series because I obviously love it. And yeah, this to me reminded me of like just like a more grown-up version kind of of a series.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
I do have one critique if you
want to get into that.
Yeah,
I also have a critique or two, so
okay.
Yeah, let's
do you
see
want to
what
start?
You have.
Okay, fine, I can start.
Well, it's like I can start, but the thing is it's very much about the ending of the book. I don't know how much we want to jump around, or if we want to still.
I mean, I'm fine with jumping around, but just you pick. Me start or you start.
You
I
can
don't care.
start.
Okay,
we're cutting all this, by the way. Okay, you go.
So my like one critique is that I feel like there was a lot of messages in this book that are very, very good and very, very, that like we want to hear that, and that it's what the story is getting at. But I felt that they were maybe sometimes a little, I don't necessarily want to say surface level, but I felt that the main characters, like, or the main adults, Linus, Arthur, and Zoe, and maybe Helen, all had moments of saying these really important things that were like kind of the thesis of the book. But there was many. And I felt that they all had the same voice while saying those. It felt very like, this is what needs to be said, and the character that's there is just going to say it. And I feel like you could have read a passage that any of them said in those moments, and you wouldn't be able to tell, like, really who was saying it. Yeah. It just felt like the things that were being said were good things to be said, but, like, it felt not, at times, it felt not integrated into the scene as integrated as it should have been. It just felt like, oh, well, this is what I want to say in this moment, so okay, this character is going to say it. That was really my one critique, was just those moments where it's like, I wouldn't necessarily take them away, but I just think they could have been more intentional with who is saying it and how they would have said it. Yes. And how they would have come about thinking that, or saying it to someone else.
I had the same critique.
Really?
Yes. I felt like, I think if I read this in 2019 when it was published, I think I would have been like, yes, so true. But now I feel like it's just a little bit too spoon-feedy. Yes. And so, like, I kind of want to read a section that I marked. This is from page 278 in my copy. Okay, so Helen's saying this, and this is, I think, I don't remember what the context is, but you'll see when I read it. She says, "We get trapped in our own little bubbles, and even though the world is wide and a wide and mysterious place, our bubbles keep us safe from that, to our detriment. But it's so easy because there's something so soothing about routine. Day in and day out, it's always the same. When we're shaken from that, when the bubble bursts, it can be hard to understand all that we've missed. We might even fear it. Some of us even fight to try and get it back. I don't know that I would fight for it, but I did exist in a bubble. Thank goodness you popped it." That, I feel like, is a really good example of, like, yes, this is so true. Like, that is what the book is consistently talking about how people are scared of the things that make them uncomfortable. And it's a great message, but that is a bit heavy-handed. Yeah. And it does happen a couple times in this book where it's just, like, certain messages are a bit spoon-fed to the audience. And I think, I wrote down in my book, but I said, if I had a friend or a family member or somebody who I loved who I was like, you might be a little closed-minded, and I want you to open up your mind a little bit, and I don't want to, like, slap you in the face with it, you know, I need, like, you need to be kind of spoon-fed. I'd give them this book, and I'd be like, isn't it great? We're all people. And I think that it's fine for the book to exist if it's kind of trying to do that. I think it did come out in a time where, you know, the world was a little scary, and we were trying to find ways to get people to be as kind and compassionate to everybody as possible. Yeah. And it wasn't so much, we weren't focused on shaking them awake. We were more focused on, like, hey, I'm going to shake your hand and we're going to talk about this.
That's true.
Which is totally fine. It is interesting, though, just reading it a couple years after it was published, and I feel like we've changed a lot as people and as a culture and society. And I feel like, some parts of this book, because of that, didn't land well with me. I'm not saying if I gave this to, like, my great uncle, he might have a completely different perspective. But, you know, it's just interesting. But I do agree with you. I think it's it was a little spoon-fed or heavy-handed at times.
Those are better terms. I couldn't think of, like, a good way to say it, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. One of those times. Oh, did you have another critique though?
And we can get into it later.
Okay. On page 132 of the hardcover one, he says, Mr. Parnassus says, The things we fear the most are often the things we should fear the least. It's irrational, but it's what makes us human.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're able to conquer those fears, then there's nothing we're not capable of. I wrote this down because he says, but it's what makes us human. And he's talking to his group of magical kids. And I was like, this kind of, there's a lot behind that, because it's like he's saying everyone here is human. And I thought that was kind of beautiful. And like, I almost wish we could have maybe tapped a little more into that. There's always like, remember in Turtles All the Way Down, they're like having an argument over like if Chewie is like human or not. And it's like, I feel like it's an interesting question, right? And so I feel like this, in that moment, I was like, wow, like he's just so easily insinuating like, oh, everyone here is human. They're human, like at their core, and it's like, what does it mean to be human? Anyways, I just kind of liked that. And
that's such a good point.
I
feel
like
catch that.
Because it's not, I don't think it's really the point of what's being said right there. But I just noticed it, and I was like, oh, this, I'm not necessarily like mad, or this isn't really a critique, but I'm just like, oh, that could have been another interesting avenue for Mr. Parnassus or the kids or Linus or whoever to like explore a little bit more. Just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it also it makes me ask the question, like, do they want to be human? I think it's just so interesting because like everyone else who is a human in this book other than Linus kind of treats them fairly poorly, and so you'd think that in a way they might want to separate themselves from that, but it's like these children are so like they want to be a part of it. And I do think it is probably because Linus is just like Arthur is constantly like reminding them that humanity is a beautiful thing, even though it is also, it has darker sides, but that's such an interesting thing. Like it could have definitely been explored more. I love that you brought that up.
Thank you.
So I kind of wanted to talk about, because I did talk about Severance earlier, and I'm not going to talk about Severance specifically, but there's just been a lot of, and I think the world also, maybe if you're just really into media as of now, like current day media, you're noticing that this is a pattern that we're seeing. But I feel like there's a message in a lot of media I've been into lately that's like very about work-life balance, or more so I think like the trap that so many people feel or fall into when they have a job, that they either don't want to explore all the complexities of how their job is harmful, and B, they know that their job is harmful, but they feel stuck in it because it's just the way the world is, whether or not like I can't get another job because of the way that the job market is, or I don't have the money to get another job, or like I'm just so comfortable here, I don't want to change my circumstances. I just think it's such an interesting message because we get people who keep these machines going because unfortunately we live in a society that kind of thrives off of the machine going and not caring for the people that's part of it. Do you know what I mean? Or the people it's affecting.
So can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
When you say a job that is harmful, do you mean like it's negative impact to society, or do you mean like, oh, it's not a good environment for that one person, like for their own personal
it could be
mental health?
Either. I would say either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for this book, it's both, I would say.
Right. Dicommi definitely has some questionable things going on.
Yeah. And I would also go ahead and just like say, if you're in a job that is harmful to society and to the betterment of the world, I'm assuming it's also hurting you anyway. Do you know what I mean? So they kind of go hand in hand. I don't know. I just think it's just like so interesting that like, Linus thinks he's doing a good thing, but it's only because he's never questioning the things he's doing. And so as good as a person as Linus is, he's ultimately every day doing bad,
Yeah.
Because it's just like he's putting blind trust in a system that doesn't care for him.
Yeah.
And so I just think that's such an interesting it's just such an interesting thing to explore. Like it's very much about like, hey, we shouldn't put blind trust in our systems just because we're comfortable there. And I mean, that's something that we talk about a whole bunch in this book. Like comfortability, unfortunately, is kind of something that unfortunately can do a lot of harm if we're not checking it. And so I don't know, I just thought it was a really interesting like just thing to check your readers on.
It's like it wasn't the whole point of the book, but it was definitely, there were points being made.
Yes, exactly. And it is, again, as I mentioned earlier, another thing that the author says, like, it's not too late to start over. It's not too late to change your mind. It's not too late to do something else. True. And we see that by the end of the book with what Linus decides to do. And I think that's so nice. If only we could all run away to an island because we don't like our jobs. I'd do that. I would do that any day.
Yeah, sounds nice. Yeah, I along with that, I really liked that Linus didn't just stay the first time that Arthur asked.
Yeah, me too.
Because I didn't think it would have been, I thought that might happen, but I personally was like, I don't feel like that's authentic to who Linus is. And I think it's so characteristic of him. Like, it's so in character of him to be like, but I have my life at home, and like I have responsibilities and I have to go home. And only when he gets home and realizes the contrast between how he felt about himself and about what he was doing while he was there versus how he feels about those things back at home where he thought he was meant to be and he was comfortable, then he's like, wait, no, like, I made a mistake, and let me go ahead and tell my 2 cents to the upper management, and then I'm gonna walk out of here and never come back. I really thought that was a good, satisfying way to bring him back to the island, because it was his choice, and it wasn't oh, Arthur really wants me to, so I guess I'll say yes. It was him saying no, and then later saying, actually, yes, I want to do that. I really liked that.
So
and also,
true.
This is so random, but I also loved that he always forgot his umbrella, but then he finally remembered it on that last day at work. It said in the book, like, he remembers his umbrella, but then he walks, like, he kind of says blah 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 and I'm quitting. You know, he doesn't really do that, but he quits and he leaves and he forgets his umbrella at the office. And then he realizes and he just like laughs into the rain and he's like,
exactly.
Oh. I loved that. I loved
so
the little umbrella detail because it was such a callback to the whole, I don't know what that
beginning.
Word is. What is this word? Now I need to figure it out. Not proposition, exposition, like at the beginning.
Yeah. Yes, exposition.
Yeah.
That's so true. I was gonna say I loved the way that the chapter was written where Linus goes back to his old life, because it felt so like lackluster and colorless compared to what the writing was like beforehand. It reminded me, and this might be not a reference that you understand or care about, but like in New Moon, okay, so there's a chapter in New Moon. You might have seen the video from the movie on online, but there's a part in New Moon where Edward leaves Bella, and after he leaves, there's like the following pages are just like the name of each month that passes that he's gone. And so it's like October, November, December, January. And you as a reader are like, oh my God. Like, it's like life is so pointless when he's not here. And that's how it felt in this book in a way. Like, it just felt like Linus as a narrator or protagonist was like, my life is not even worth describing. I'm literally waking up, staring at a photo of this family that I miss, going to work, hating my life, and coming home. Like, it's not worth it. And I just felt like it was like, you felt the loss of the family so clearly in those chapters, because Linus was like making sure it was known because he felt it was so lackluster and colorless. And I just loved that. I felt like that was such a good way to make you as a reader just like feel pain that we were gone from the family. No,
for sure. And I think in that time, like, he realizes, like, he feels like, well, I'm doing good at this job, but he's like, he realizes like he was doing more good by being on the island with them, you know?
Yes. Yes, that's so true. So another thing I wanted to say. This is kind of where my critique comes in. I don't even know if this is a critique. It was just something I was intrigued by, and I didn't know if I was reading the book wrong. I say in scare quotes, but like, you know, what would you say is the main conflict of this book? Because when I was reading it, there was so much focus on like, okay, are we shutting down this orphanage or house or whatever you want to call it? Is it going to get shut down? What's going to happen when Linus goes back? What's going to happen to all of these people? Like, whatever. And then, you know, I felt like we were building up to it in a way. And then when we got back to Linus's old place, I was like, are they going to tell him that we're shutting down the orphanage? And like, there's going to be a big rumble and like, we're going to have to figure something out. Yeah, sorry, not to bring the aspect to the outsiders.
I loved it.
But is there going to be something huge in the final 50 pages of this book that we're going to have to save this house from being closed? And then it just like didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And I was like, maybe that wasn't the point. But then I was like, but then what was the conflict?
So that's really interesting that you say that, because that's not how I was reading it.
That's why I was like, did I read it wrong?
Which, like, I don't think you read it wrong. I think that Linus thought that that was the main conflict, but I feel like as the reader, as the omniscient viewer of the whole thing, I felt like the main conflict was, is Linus ever going to wake up to the fact that he hates his old life and like, and that there can be something better in his future. That's what I felt like the main conflict was like Linus's own battle with himself.
Yes.
Of like, and so then the ending is there is a big rumble.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I like just the orphanage and is it going to close and is it not felt to me like a vessel for Linus's conflict and like an avenue through which he goes through his own thing, if that makes sense.
I see, and I definitely saw that and I noted that, and that's why when I was reading it I was like, okay, so maybe there are like just a bunch of conflict things kind of happening, but to me I was just like expecting for there to be a almost like not a blow up of some kind, but like just something a bit more climactic towards the end. And it felt like everything was kind of like just very low key. And so then for me, I was like, okay, maybe that's not what the book is supposed to be. Maybe the book was never supposed to be a conflict driven type of story in the way that in the last 50 pages, as usual formula goes, there's going to be this huge whatever you want to say, but I was like, maybe the book though was never gonna do that, and that was just me taking my past experience of like things that I just was expecting into this book and being unfair to it. It did make me like, it was nice, it was sweet, I liked the ending. It did make me feel like something was missing though, because I just felt it was kind of very anticlimactic.
Well, maybe like to that point, maybe because kind of what I would call the rumble in this situation where he has to fight for the orphanage to be open is when he has like audience with upper management and they're like, is this really your full report? And he's like, yes. And he kind of goes on his long speech. And maybe because you and I both felt a little bit like those moments of the big messages being told weren't as deep as they could have been, weren't as specific character driven as they could have been. Like maybe it didn't, maybe there was supposed to be, maybe that was supposed to be the rumble that you were looking for, but it didn't land for you.
Expecting. Yes. And I'm not saying that it didn't land. I just think I was expecting something bigger. And if I didn't have that expectation, I think I would have been very satisfied. And I'm not saying I was not satisfied with the ending. I thought it was a very sweet, like very cozy, comforting type of feel good book to read. And I think books like that should and can exist. Oh, she turned on her light.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, it just like I did feel like, because like I was being told throughout the book kind of how high the stakes were, and that made me expect a higher stake ending than it kind of turned out to be. Which is fine. It just took me by surprise. It made me feel kind of like, oh, okay.
I 100% can see what you're saying, and like I agree now that I'm hearing you say it. It's just like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But that makes a lot of sense, because that was the whole point of why he went there. And it seemed like upper management was waiting until they found a reason to close it. You know what I mean? Like they were just like, okay, one thing that he mentions, and then that'll be enough for us to close it. And then he just kind of didn't really deliver to upper management what they were hoping.
And
So I totally see what you're saying.
And I think because like a few chapters before that, there was that really big moment where like Arthur is revealed as a phoenix to the town, and like we kind of go to the town and we're expecting kind of like a big show of things, and also that is also kind of not as big as what I was thinking. But I was like, that is more so what I was expecting the huge conflict of the book to be, to feel like just like they're like, well, we have to go into town, and Linus, you shouldn't go, it's too dangerous, but Linus goes anyway, and then they're in this car and it's going over the water, and then the whole town is there, and like only one person's on their side, and Arthur's revealed to be this magical creature that only one exists. That's crazy. But again, in the moment I was like, this is fairly calm, low-key. Like, just kind of like, it just never felt as like huge.
Dire.
As I thought it was gonna be. And again, maybe that's just because I was placing incorrect expectations on the book than what it was trying to do.
Maybe.
So I don't know, but sorry,
I know.
you're blue.
My lighting is like it's because the lights are like behind me, so I'm like, I don't know how
to fix that. It doesn't look bad. It's just funny to see you changing colors.
I all of a sudden turned blue. I don't know why.
But yeah, I do want to preface though, like I didn't dislike the ending at all. I just felt odd to me, you know. But otherwise I was really happy with like the way it wrapped up, and then also just like the epilogue was super cute. And just felt very fulfilling, and like it ticked all my boxes. Every box I wanted to tick, it ticked.
They got their first kiss.
And then, like, we get the promise that like the kids are gonna be adopted by them, and they're gonna get married, and then they're also adopting a new kid together, and like that's so cute. And the fact that
sorry, no, keep going.
I was just gonna say the fact that like Daikami ends up being there's an investigation, and everybody who was in that upper management has to step down, and then a new management comes in, and like there's just hope for the future that things are going to get better than what they were like, and I think that's very hopeful.
It was nice
and sweet.
I thought Zoe and Helen was
so
random.
I was like, oh, we're just all gay here. I love that, but like it's so random.
I was like, okay.
I was just like, okay, well then let's give our lesbians their own book then.
Right.
Like, you like just throwing that in there. Like, let's just let that happen.
It was so out of left field. Like, I was like, were we supposed to be picking up on hints? Because I wasn't.
I was blind. I'm so sorry. And I don't know why. Maybe there's just too much going on for me, but like, I was not seeing any of that. I was wondering what was going to happen with Helen though, because from the moment we meet her, she's just like a cool gal. And I was like, okay, there might, like, I thought she was either going to turn on us. This is me reading this whole book. I was like, what's going to happen? When's the shoe going to drop? And it just never did. But I was like, is she going to turn evil on us? Like, is she actually as good as she seems? Is she going to come to the island for whatever reason? And then in the end, I was like, oh, okay, so she's just going to kind of be a part of this family, which is sweet. And I love that Zoe has somebody. But again, I was like, could we have had more of that? I would have loved more of that. That would have been amazing. But
it was, everyone was getting their fairy tale ending.
True. I do wonder. I'm like, okay, well now TJ Klune, you have to write another book with them, because you can't just throw that in there.
True.
It was like one sentence.
One thing, and Sorry, I keep fixing my bangs. They
No,
look
you're fine.
weird from this angle for some reason.
No, I think they look good.
Thank you.
Mm.
And we can cut this out later if it seems like too much, but
Okay.
this book in several ways reminded me of The Wishing Game.
I know.
Like,
I thought so too, and I was like, Loki, it's so nice to read a book that kind of does it right. Kind of lands the plane. So sorry to the listeners.
exactly, like they're on an island.
Yes.
There's children and adults. There's dire situation.
It's like kind of kooky, quirky in certain ways. Yeah.
And like I thought, like one thing that really stuck out to me was like in comparison between the two is that finally when we learn that Arthur is a phoenix, we understand why he has such like a vested interest in Lucy and wants to like make Lucy grow up knowing he can be good and he can do good. And you know, Lucy's bedroom is like the closet in Arthur's room. And which also for a good part of the book I was like, are we gonna find out that Arthur is like actually Lucy's dad? Like I was
really?
like, yeah, I was like, something's
Interesting.
going on because he has like a special connection. Yeah. But then it makes sense, like he's a very powerful being too. And when I read that, I was like, see, this makes sense why an adult is having a strong relationship with a kid.
No, it's so true. And it's like the kid literally lives in his closet and like,
and it's
I never thought it was
weird.
I never thought it was weird.
Because like in the Wishing Game, it's just like I felt like, but why is she so obsessed with him?
Yeah.
With the kid.
Yeah.
And I really liked in this book, it made a lot of sense and it became really clear why he was, and he wasn't even necessarily so attached to him. He just really was invested in him. Yeah. And it just, that was one thing. There was a lot of things that I felt were similar between the two, and I would say this book lands more correctly. Yeah. And that was like a big one that I was like, this is what the other book needed.
Yes. It felt kind of satisfying in a way for me to read because I was like, oh, it's kind of righting wrongs for me.
Same.
So sorry.
Same.
I also think it's just interesting because the second Arthur steps on a page, you're like, oh, this is a dad. This is a paternal figure.
Yes.
And he always presents himself as that. Whereas in the Wishing Game, I think is her name Lucy?
Mm-hmm. Which is weird, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so weird.
Lucy.
But Lucy never presented herself to me as maternal. She presented like she was so immature and naive in the way that a 26-year-old can be. And Arthur, being 45 and very much a father figure to these kids, was just always, to me, everything he did was out of fatherly love and wanting to protect the children, which I loved. I thought he was such a good example of like a kind dad. You know, I love kind dads in media, but he's just somebody who I think is so interesting because I don't think as a child he really had the space or the care enough to be able to operate as a kid and enjoy his life as a kid. There's like a line in there too that's like, I think Zoe says he's been wearing suits since he was a child, like a mini adult, and just like in that way, like he's just always, I think, been stuck in this adulthood, so he didn't get to have any innocence when he should have as a kid. And so I think the way you see him allowing his kids to be just like goofy and silly and making jokes, cracking jokes at the dinner table, or like just being so loving and caring of them and their needs and their wishes and wants, it made me feel so good. Like, and again, that's another way to heal your childhood trauma. In a way that I'm like, that's believable and that's okay with me. Not in the way that it was done in the other book.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So anyways, I thought it was just really interesting that, I mean, we had the outsiders in between these two, but there were a lot of parallels really. And I'm very glad that we read this one second.
Me too. Me too. We would have been maybe a little bit more mean to the other book if we read this one first and had those expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree though. I do want to ask though, I know I brought this up a little earlier, but the way that the book leaves off kind of felt open-ended to me. Do you feel like there could be a sequel, and do you want there to be a sequel?
For me, like, it wrapped up enough. I like when a story has a bit of
just cushion.
What could happen next, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think I would be like, up on the forums at night, theorizing if there's gonna be a sequel.
Okay.
But like, if a sequel came out, I think I would definitely read it.
Yeah, I think I would even like maybe like a series of like novellas or something, just like little stories, because there's that line that he like took all the restricted folders of like other kids, and I'm just like, what if we just like delve into that a little bit, because like there's so much there. And like we talked too a little bit in the beginning about how we're only kind of zooming in on a very small fraction of the story and like what this world truly is. So the idea that there could be so much more we could explore is really interesting. But I also agree, I don't think it's pressing on me, like I don't need another one, but I would love any type of content, I think, to come from this world still.
And I think that like speaks to, again, TJ Klune's great writing ability, because it's like, I feel pretty satisfied with where we went with Linus's story, and it's not like, I really need to know where he's going, but it's just like, I really enjoyed reading this book, I would read more.
Yes. Exactly. I love it. Do you have anything else you want to touch on?
I don't think so. I think I kind of got to say all my stuff. There was just so much, again, that I just loved reading about this. I feel like I've talked about this book many times on the podcast. This book I read called Drizzle, Dreams, and Love-Struck Things, which I have talked about as being like just a very cozy, easy to read. It's just like about characters doing stuff, and I mean, they all have a little conflict that gets resolved, but like, it's just one of those books where it's just enjoyable to read about the characters doing their daily lives. And I felt like this book very similarly was that, which I feel like that's pretty easy. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's probably more typical with like a realistic fiction, especially Drizzle, Dreams, and Love-Struck Things is like realistic fiction romance, basically, like teen romance. And it's just like, like the girl falling in love and like la la la, and she's going about her day. But I feel like I've never read a book that's like has this fantasy element that's just like, it's just like, I'm just enjoying reading about what they do for school and their garden that they're growing. You know what I mean? So I thought that was really cool to read.
Yeah, that's so true. It felt
because it's like you think about. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it felt like it was paced and written in the way of like a typical coming of age story for me. Where like we're just watching someone grow up, but it was just Linus for a month of his life growing up really quickly because his worldview has been changed.
Right, and it's like, you mentioned Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and it's like that book is so like stakes heavy, you know what I mean? And it's like it would be interesting to be able to read just about the characters in that book, and before all the stakes got heavy, like what were they doing from day to day. And this book gave us that a little bit,
so true. It's kind of like that, that part in I feel like so many people, their complaints about stories is like, well, then everything just starts to get good, and then like we have to wrap it up in like a chapter. Like I want to see the life beyond the story. This kind of gives you, it feels like the whole thing's almost like an epilogue. In the way that it just makes you feel like, it's so cozy, so nice. So chill. My Goodreads review for this was low conflict queens, this is the girl for you. It's just so low conflict, like the stakes are just never so scary.
Right, it's like they're dire, but the book isn't like
it's not like yes, exactly. That's a really good way to put that.
Really was it? Because I felt like I looked crazy. doing that.
It was true when you said like the stakes aren't actually dire, but it's just like the way the book presents the stakes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay, well, I don't know how exactly to wrap up the book. I guess like we both really liked it.
Love.
Couldn't
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah, I'd recommend. I would maybe read it again.
Me too. I think like
in a couple
like
years.
5 years down the line, if I'm ever
Yeah.
like bored or sad, I might just pick this one back up. Yeah, I'm definitely just gonna be recommending it to people. Like, I told my roommate Catherine that she should read it because, like I said earlier, it reminds me of The Sound of Music. Where, like, you know, like someone comes to a house and like there's a bunch of children who are like.
True.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I think the roles are reversed. Where like, you know, Captain Von Trapp I think is actually Linus, and then Maria is Arthur. And he's like,
that's so true.
Yeah, like Arthur's like very intent on protecting the kids and like making sure their innocence is maintained and like whatever. But then like Linus is the one who needs to be cracked a little bit. Yeah. So I'm like, what a wacky thing. We should have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was intentional, but I was like, low-key, I think this could be a Sound of Music retelling.
Yeah.
That's House in the Cerulean Sea. Do we want to maybe go into what our book for next month is going to be for anyone curious? Because this is going to be a big month for us, you guys.
A big reveal. Drum roll, everybody.
Do you have your book on you?
Yeah.
Okay. So
ready?
For the month of May, the book we're reading is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Oh my gosh. And we were like, we're getting the hardcover. We're getting the copy. Yep. We're literally reading this.
Went to my local bookstore. They were like, we're sold out. Come back next week. Went back next week. Didn't even look at the price tag. I've been crying about, not actually crying, but like complaining about, I have no money. But I was like, go ahead and swipe my card for that.
You're welcome, Suzanne. Yeah, no, oh my gosh. Everyone's been talking about this book. I've been very lucky where I have not seen spoilers.
Yes, me too.
I'm so excited to get into this book. I'm going to read it, I think, almost immediately, which is very rare.
I'm like, maybe I need to start it tonight.
Yeah, like literally. Like usually I'm so like, let me wait a few days in between the books. Let me give myself some time. This one I'm like, I have to read it because I need to know what's going on.
I literally bought it and flipped through and seeing like the chapter, like the chapter, the little circles,
the little design, for
I'm like, oh
chapter.
My gosh,
that is, that makes me want to cry.
It's like so nostalgic, you know.
That's beautiful.
Like we're back in it.
We're back, guys. We are so back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting because I was telling Dan, like, I've actually never purchased and read a book like right in the mainstream of when it's happening.
Really?
I just haven't, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm always late to the game because I'm like, I'll get it at the library later.
Sure.
So that's why I was like, I'm just gonna buy this because I really want it. I already have the trilogy in hardcover. I'll get the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes like from a thrift store. But I was like, this is gonna complete my collection.
That's
like,
so gorgeous.
You know, and I was like, I want to read it right now while everyone is reading it and like be a part of the culture and the history. You know what I mean?
It's so true. It is such a moment, and I'm so excited. It's taking me back to when I was 13 and the first movie was premiering. Yeah, no, and I don't think we've ever actually read, well, two things. I don't think we've read a book that's been as culturally significant and relevant as this one. Usually we're just like picking books that we like, and you know, that's fine.
Like The Outsiders is like the closest, I'd say.
As in like, that's all, like that's always like
everyone
evergreen.
knows that one.
Yeah. But like for the most part, it's like I think a lot of our books are kind of like just randoms. Like it's never gonna be a book that just came out, really, other than Donuts. I think Donuts might have been.
Yeah, but it's just like not as well known.
But this one's gonna be interesting. Also, I don't think we've ever read a dystopian book for the book club, have we?
True. I don't think
it's
so.
Our first one. And again, I don't read dystopian very often. I think it's just because we're in that era of you know, publishing where we're not so involved in the dystopian or interested in the dystopian genre anymore. But like we're interested in the Hunger Games, so I think it's just like it'll be interesting to go back into that genre and see.
Right, I'm interested in anything Suzanne Collins has to say.
I'll read her grocery list. I'll do whatever. I'll help her with her taxes. Like whatever you want, girl. So yeah, look out for that next month if you want to read along with us.
Yeah, and please, no spoilers.
No spoilers. Oh my gosh, I will cry.
Yeah.
And then block you and then unblock you because I feel bad, but I will cry.
We'll unblock you because we actually do want your follow.
we don't want to. We don't want to just ostracize people, but.
And I feel like, you know, we just read a really good book.
I know. We've
like
been on
The
a
Outsiders.
roll.
The Outsiders was a good conversation. I liked this book. Like I know I'm gonna like this. Like I just know I am.
Oh yes.
So yeah, it just feels good. Like we're about to. Didn't we post our first episodes last year at the beginning of May?
I think the first one was either May or April. I'll
yeah,
have to
so
check, but yeah,
we're like coming up on a year, and it's like we're heading into our second year, like so good.
I know. Second lap's been really great. Second
Yeah.
lap's been really super. Sweet.
In that case, thank you everyone for listening along to Read the Last Page. Our music and illustrations were created by the wonderful Sage Timothy.
If you don't know our schedule yet, we host our book club episodes on the first Friday of each month. So for next month, as you just said, we are reading Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. That episode will be out on the first Friday of May, so be sure to pick up a copy and read it by then if you want to discuss it with us.
Before we get to the last page, though, we'll see you in 2 weeks for a catch-up episodes where it's just your besties talking. You can listen to us on your podcast platform of choice, or of course you can watch us on YouTube, and also you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram. And for now, we want to say bye from B
and Dan. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, baby, bye.